Is the 91-day delay with the global liquidity still valid or no? Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, how are my snipers doing today? I hope you guys are doing fantastic. Listen, we're going to be discussing a few things surrounding Turbo. First off, I do want to get into the news, right? We can see that Turbo Kudos is live, powered by this open format tech. Turbo began at the first meme coin created by AI. Now, thanks to open format, we're training a shared intelligence layer that listens to our community, learns who adds value, and rewards them with the soul-bound kudos on Turbo chain. Here's what's happening. Helpful answers, killer memes and builds, AI reward daily kudos. What can you do with the kudos? Join Turbo Discord or Telegram to find out. And we can see, right, we got the links over here. Every day, the brain learns more. Every interaction counts. Earn kudos, shape culture, build together. Right. So if you guys are interested in this, highly do recommend checking it out. But in terms of news, that is it from Turbo's end. But let's talk about the charts, right? Let's talk about the important thing. Is the global liquidity still valid or not? If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, let me just bring it back in for a second. We know that Turbo was following the global liquidity very, very, very well, right? We know that. If we go and look at the liquidity top to Turbo's top, it was 91 days, right? 91 days. Now, if we take it from the bottom to Turbo's bottom, it was also 91 days. Now, here is the tricky part, right? This is where some might debate. Some might say, well, you only did the top and you only did the bottom, so that's easier. And that might be very well true, right? We are going to see if that is just the case, right? We're going to go to random points of Turbo and we're going to see where it was 91 days in to see if some of this stuff was even relevant. So yeah, you can see, right, when there was a little bit of a resurgence over here, right, in this global liquidity, Turbo was flatline. And in fact, right, when it was still the second top over here, Turbo actually went down a drastic amount. So from what I'm seeing is the micro moves, the smaller moves for Turbo don't matter too much, which is kind of unfortunate because when we were looking at the earlier data and we were looking at the earlier pumps, right, when we had this nice first big leg of global liquidity, we were actually perfectly aligned within the 91-day pump, right? It was perfect. And then when we took the top in for 91 days, it was already a little bit ahead of schedule, right? It was a little bit ahead of schedule. And of course, when we took the bottom in, right, bottom, we did actually have a nice sell-off week, just the way we anticipated. But here's the deal, right? It doesn't seem to be very, very consistent with all of these moves, right? If we go to 91 days from this top, it goes down here, right? It should have been technically a pump. If we go from this top to where we are right now, we should be technically pumping. Now we still have one more week in this sector, right? Because then it goes down a little bit, then it goes a little bit sideways, and then it bursts up, right? But still, right, it just seems like there isn't a lot of consistency. So what now? What now? Well, ladies and gentlemen, personally for me, not much has changed. The only thing that I used this for was more so of timing, right? And if the top and the bottom is still going to be fairly accurate of, when Turbo tops or when Turbo bottoms, then that's all that matters to me. We will have to see how Turbo reacts off of these two zones, right? The reason why I say this is because these are clear tops for now, at least. And that would still be a few weeks from here, right? That would be the first week of July or mid-July. How we would have to see how Turbo reacts. Now, like I said, for me, it doesn't matter. I'm more about, the technical analysis. I am more about the vision. And I also understand that Bitcoin dominance needs to drop drastically for altcoin season to really start, for alts to really start picking up, right? When this Bitcoin dominance chart started to drop drastically here, that is when alts saw a huge resurgence last cycle. Okay, they saw a huge increase. And then when it kind of went sideways, they were building that structure for the big pump. And then we can see, right, when this huge drop happened, that is when many altcoins actually found life. So we see that, ladies and gentlemen, we see that, right? And we haven't had that with Bitcoin dominance yet. So any types of pumps, anything shouldn't be that insane, generally speaking. The thing is, though, I will say Turbo does move in big pumps, and it probably will continue to move in kind of big bursts, right? The next time we start expanding, it probably will happen very quick. I would be really surprised if it didn't. I am still ultimately bullish with this token, with this coin, right? I still believe ultimately the objective of coming back down to retest this massive support and going to the order block was still needed, and that was ultimately the goal for June. Now obviously I would still like to see some more recovery candles. We still have, you know, a little bit more than half of June left, so would love to see that. Also have to remember we are in a huge, you know, we are in a 3-month candle. We are, right? And we expected this to be a recovery month, right? We did, or sorry, not recovery month, this quarter to be mainly recoveries. And, you know, although we have dropped a good amount from these tops here, we are still technically on track in terms of recovering, you know, all like this huge dump, right? We technically at one point recovered, you know, a good amount, right? If we take it from when it really starts to drop, like from here to here, we did practically recover. I mean, if we reverse this, you know, 78% at one point. Yes, sure, now we're below the 50% recovery, but I still expect June to be fairly solid. And then the real pumps, according to technical analysis, right? When we talk about pure candles, I expect July, August, and September, right? So we'll see how global liquidity also lines up. We'll see if July, you know, mid to early July will be our, you know, huge pump for Turbo. And yeah, I also will be doing 2 Turbo videos a day. One of them is going to be a special kind of Turbo video, right? I'm really excited. I think you guys will enjoy it. It has nothing really to do with the technical analysis in terms of daily updates, right? It more so has to do, you know, it has to do with some kind of data of Turbo, but it also has to do with a whole other side. And I think you guys are really going to enjoy it because it's going to break down things very nicely. And you'll see tomorrow. I'm really excited for it. And yeah, but ladies and gentlemen, that is practically it. We're going to cover the basics. We're at rank 160, 286 million market cap with 62 million volume. Things are still looking good. We're going to look at the holders before we finish this off. We also will be, ladies and gentlemen, doing a live stream probably between 6:30 p.m. and 8:30 p.m. today to see which YouTubers are, you know, the best, worth listening to, and etc. You know, we're going to be doing that type of stuff today. We're going to be hunting, you know, whoever is bad, whoever is naughty, whoever, you know, makes people lose money. No. We will make an official tier list video though if you don't want to watch the live stream, but still highly recommend to just join for a couple minutes to hang out. But we see, ladies and gentlemen, we practically are at the all-time holders of 55,606 or 17. That is it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys did enjoy, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Goodbye.